What is going on, everybody, and welcome to the RPS Around the Rim NBA DFS show. I'm back. I'm your host, JSU, and with me today, bringing back the crew, the dream team here. We got Hoop and BigT. Hoop, first off, what's going on, brother? How was your NBA MLB day yesterday?
First off, just honored to be here. And, I was running low on funds, and I think I found two guys that I might be able to get a loan from after yesterday. I mean, geez, just tearing it up. Both of you. Congratulations on the big wins. I was talking to you guys before, like I had a screenshot fired up, ready to go. It's a nice little 40K shipper on FanDuel for NBA, but had to keep it in the back pocket. I mean, I couldn't contend with the big dogs that you guys were throwing out there.
Yeah, it was a good day for everyone though at RPS. It feels like even the subs are winning. We obviously had a big night as a team. NBA didn't go as great for me, but MLB we just shipped it, and it was good because if you watch the show, me and Tony were on a lot of the same teams and a lot of the same stacks, and I'm lucky. Honestly, I'm lucky that Tony talked me in. Well, really and truly, it was because the cheap stacks were what we were on. But Tony talked me into the two stud pitchers again late at night. Like I wasn't going to play any Kershaw, and Tony sold me on it with his core. So I threw in like one or two of my four lineups with the double studs, and it hit. So again, I have to thank Tony. Sadly enough, I can't just hold my own and say it was all me. I have to thank Tony for that because I was not playing Kershaw if he didn't talk me into it.
Oh, I mean, it was the show. We kind of talked through it. And I mean, if you watched that MLB show yesterday, we were talking about the hitters and we said, man, we can't wait to get to the Giants game because the Giants are the nuts tonight. They were the nuts. We talked about Danny Santana being a random +1 that could win someone a tournament. It happened. We said we were going to play the two studs. It happened. JT Hayes doing the baseball content. We didn't even talk to him much on the day. He ships the 100K. JSU ships the 100K. I shipped less than both of them with a monster night, but we had members winning 5K single entries. I mean, if you're not joining the movement with Ron Pure right now, I don't know what you're doing because, I mean, it legitimately has been at least 10 or 11 100K winners since we've started this thing.
The saying, everyone jokes around on Twitter and, they hate to see it type thing. This is a spot where it can be just applied to perfection. Like they honestly hate to see it right now. If you're not a part of this and, like we say, we're semi-biased, but man, the results keep rolling in. So I don't think it's biased at this point. The content is the best in the industry. And we're backing it up with the plays. It's an easy correlation. You look at the core plays, you look at the lineups at one. That's exactly what we put out there. I mean, the haters are not happy today, boys. The haters are not happy.
That core yesterday that I put on there, obviously we leave 3 open spots because that's just the rules. We need to follow the DK rules. If you looked at that core, though, it had literally the same 2 pitchers. It had the Giants guys, Wilmer, and these guys. Every dude from the core plays was on these winning teams. So, I mean, you can't be more transparent than we are. I love it. Let's hop into the NBA, though, and let's get right back on this giblet train.
Real quick, though, before hold on.
This has been multiple sports, though, is what I want to say. It's not like it's football or baseball or basketball. It's everything. It's freaking MMA. It's baseball. It's NASCAR. We get a little bit in every area. We like to take over everything.
I just have to show people, though, how modest Tony is, though, because earlier he said, we were talking up Danny Santana and Freddie Galvis and all these guys. That was Tony. That was Tony talking up those guys. So don't put me in there when you have good calls.
You were on the show.
Could say,
you were helping.
No, but you could say we were on the Giants. Remember we literally said, Holden, can we skip to the Giants because we just want to talk about the Giants as a stack? But don't give me credit for Danny Santana. You're the one who touted him and was pushing him. The only reason why I looked at him was because you were pushing him so hard. So you have to give yourself a little credit.
It's a team effort, boys. It's a Run Pure team. It is a
team effort, but I don't like you just downgrading it when you literally call a guy. You got to tell the people. Like, the people should know. Like, Tony had a bunch of like one-off guys that were great calls yesterday.
Hoops known it for a while. The baseball, that's my favorite. Those just random one-off dudes that no one plays.
All right, here you go. Like, I didn't play baseball last night. I had some things going on. Just stuck with the NBA yesterday. If I would have looked at the box scores and saw that Mr. Galvis had a big night and Mr. Flores had a big night,
Don't forget about Santana. He's been my boy too for a while.
Well, just those two specifically. I would have put, without looking at any DFS contents, a lot, and I mean a lot of money on the fact that Big T would have had a big night. Those are his boys, and he sticks by his boys in baseball. Paid off big time last night, and yeah, I mean, like I said, and we hit in other sports too. Like, I had a big day in NBA, or a lot of members had big days and big day in NBA yesterday. And guess what? We're going to run it back again today.
That's the best part about what we do, though. We have maybe one of the biggest possible nights, especially when you throw in hoops last night. I mean, well over 300K in winners. And we're right back at it, ready to get on this next slate because that's what we do. We
can't get comfortable. We try to win get comfortable. Yep.
All right, well, let's do it. And shout out to Steve Quadrado, who won. I think he won 5K. He entered like $120.
Yeah, he took me down. That isn't right, Steve. You took me down to the 2-hole on the single entry. I love it though.
Got a boy.
He was in there sweating on the live show with us too. I like that.
Yep, and Steve needed some help with the rough pinch hit call that we kind of helped him with too. So I was happy that actually helped you out, Steve. I'm really happy that helped you out.
The shafts are getting raw, boys. We better move on to the next thing here.
All right.
Someone says, "Is the circle jerk over yet?" I mean, we can keep it going. I mean, we have the right to keep it going after last night.
That's my boy Clairvoyant saying that. He likes to get in. Clairvoyant, you better not be in Mangone's group betting the Lakers against me. I know you're not in there, Clairvoyant.
No, he's definitely in there with Mangone.
Talk about a circle jerk. Mangone's little group with freaking Clairvoyant. That's the circle jerk.
All right, well let's dive in here to this slate because we got a good one. Back at it. We got the Toronto Raptors versus the Brooklyn Nets. Brooklyn is now without one of their main key guys in Joe Harris, as kind of funny as that is to say, but he's been really good in the bubble. And, we talked about shooters, and he's a key shooter for that team. He grabbed like 15 rebounds too. I mean, that was crazy. We're not going to see that happen again, but he's gone, and that's a lot of production. He played 39 minutes last game. I mean, Garrett Temple, TLC, Jared Allen, Karis LeVert, these guys are already playing as much minutes as they can really possibly play. So someone else has to get a minutes bump, or maybe even two people for this 40 minutes. We got to figure out who that is, or if we even want to go there. But Hoop, I'm going to bring it to you first. What are you doing with this Nets team?
I mean, I've been light on the Nets all throughout the playoffs, and I understand the situation. Like, they're without everybody. These guys are going to play minutes, but a lot of people are playing minutes in the NBA playoffs, and a lot of teams have a really tight core. Just a lot of risk with the Nets. I mean, going against this Raptors team, I mean, they hung in there last game. I just cannot imagine them doing it this game. Like, it just seems like such a likely blowout. But that being said, some of these guys are still going to have to play. The two guys I think that interest me the most for the Nets would be TLC and Garrett Temple. Garrett Temple finally got the shot to fall last game. But I'm just not willing to go overboard on the Nets, even with this injury-plagued roster right now. I don't know. Like, the other spots I like a lot more. I'll be probably lighter on these guys than the field, and I feel okay with that. I mean, I think at some point the Raptors are just going to come in and blow them out, and I think it kind of happens today. So I'm going to be lighter on the Nets side. I'll have some Garrett Temple. I'll have some TLC. But that's probably it. I don't know. I mean, there's quite a few guys that could pick up the slack with those, the 39 minutes that we talked about with Joe Harris. But I'm just not willing to go overboard on the Nets. I've done it the other two slates with this Nets team, and it hasn't killed me. So I'm going to be light again today.
All right. Well, Tony, I'm going to bring this to you next because I know you like to try and find, a bunch of cheapies, to pair with some studs. I know that's always your route if you can find people that you like down at the bottom. Is there anyone from this Nets team that you think is a little sneaky that's, cheap and you can kind of pair up? Because I personally like this game. I want to stack this game. I like the Toronto side too. But talk to me about the Nets first, and then if you like anything from the Raptors.
Yeah, I think Brooklyn's my favorite team on the slate, just because they got these guys that I think should get run if they keep it close, and if they blow out a little bit, I think they should still get the same run. Like mainly Tyler Johnson and Chioza. Obviously, I like TLC is just a total lock to me. Like I couldn't even imagine fading him today, but Temple I like, so I agree with Hoops two guys, but mainly the two guys that get the boost, I think, are Tyler Johnson and especially Chioza. Like 3,200 on DraftKings for Chioza. He hasn't been good, but they haven't needed him to play that much. And even if it turns into a blowout, I think he plays. I just need a really cheap guy to be able to fit these studs at the top. And I think Chioza's that guy. I just think he crushes. He matches up pretty good with Van Vliet. Two little midgies out there running around chasing each other with all the energy. So I like them a lot. I'm not going to play Karis LeVert and Jared Allen more than likely, just because I think it could turn into a blowout too. But man, I like the four guards or whatever you want to call them: Temple, TLC, Tyler Johnson, and Chioza. I don't even hate playing all three or four of them together.
All right. Well, I have a little different take, I guess, than you. So I'm with you, Tony, that I really like this game. I'm going to be heavier on this game. But I'm definitely going to play some Jared Allen and some Karis LeVert. And, Joe Harris out, that's going to boost people's minutes. But really and truly, the production is still going to be somewhat with Karis LeVert with the ball in his hands the entire game. Jared Allen, he is so productive. I mean, you can say he's not like a great basketball player, and he's 7,100. I don't think, again, people are going to pay that price tag for him. He played 41 minutes last game. Like, if he's getting 40 minutes in a close game, I'm going to pay for him today. Like, he got 15 rebounds last game. That was with Joe Harris getting 15 boards or whatever he got. I mean, this dude could have, a 20 rebound game. Like, it's not out of the question for me. I'm going to play some Karis LeVert. I agree with you. TLC, Temple, both great plays. And then from the Raptor side, I kind of like stacking Van Fleet and Lowry together. I think it's something that most people won't do because maybe they're either afraid of a blowout, so they don't want to put too much salary onto the Raptor side, so they might just pick one. But I mean, even in a blowout, these guys are going to play 35 plus minutes. They did it the first game, and they kind of blew them out in the first game, and they still played huge minutes. So I don't know. Give me these guys together. I'm sick of trying to guess, which one's going to have a little better game. Just give me them both. If the game's close, I'll take my 40 minutes and whatever they can give me in 40 minutes each. I think that's what I'm looking at. And then I think Serge Ibaka is someone who I'm going to have interest in on FanDuel, where he's power forward eligible, a little interest on DK too, but more on FanDuel, where I need a cheaper power forward, and Brooklyn's still a good matchup if he's getting 25 minutes. But anything else, I'll bring it back to you. Anything from the Raptors side for you? Because I don't know if you talked about the Raptors that much.
Yeah. And I agree with the Tyler Johnson call. Kind of overlooked him. I meant to mention him, kind of slipped past me, but he's cheap. He'll have to play. He'll have the ball in his hands a decent bit. So I do like Tyler Johnson a little bit as well. On the Raptors side, I mean, I'm going to kind of go with the same strategy I had last slate with this team, and it's going to be Lowry and it's going to be Siakam for me. Siakam, man, I don't get it. Like, comes out so hot in that last game and kind of just like disappears. I mean, he was just gone. Something's going on, but the price is so cheap now. I mean, on DK is 7.3K. He's still getting, you got about 35 fantasy points in the first two games, and that's not going to kill you. So I'm going to be back on him. I'm going to be on Lowry for sure. I'm going to fade Van Fleet. I mean, he's been playing great, but I think at some point it goes to Lowry, it goes to Siakam. And those are kind of the only two I have interest in on the Raptors side of things.
I'm going to throw out one more guy. So Norman Powell took 4 shots in the first game, played 17 minutes. The second game, he comes out, he takes 17 shots, plays 32 minutes, goes 11 for 17 from the field. I mean, think about that. So he comes off the bench, he absolutely destroys, and Van Fleet and Lowry still have solid games. Siakam had a crazy first quarter and then kind of slowed down tremendously after that. I mean, is Norman Powell in play for you guys if he's getting that type of if he's getting 25 minutes at 4,300? He's got to be someone we look at, right?
Yeah, I like him. I really like him. That's a good call. I mean, we saw him in the playoffs last year. I mean, he dominated in the playoff in the Raptors playoff run last year. And Raptors run a tight rotation, and 4.3K. I think he's a very strong value play. I mean, big game last time out. He's kind of blowout proof too, because if it does turn into a blowout, he'll probably get that run that we want in the fourth quarter. So just high upside play at 4.3K.
Yeah, I think he's one of those guys too, where if he's on and he's going, I think he's going to get more minutes like you saw in game 2. Whereas if game 1, he's not really being aggressive and he's not doing much, they might not play him as much. But yeah, I mean, Tony, anything else? Do you like Powell or anyone else?
This was super, super tilting to me. So I'm glad you brought it up, because in game 1, I needed to make a pivot late to make my team work where I needed it. I forget what it even was at this point, but the pivot was to get on Norman Powell in game 1 was the second part of the pivot, to get some star or whoever I wanted in. And he just didn't play the second half. They came out at halftime and he never played until the game was over. And then he came in for scrub time. Friggin' tilted me hard. And then he comes back the next game. Of course I don't play him and he goes off. I agree with Hoop. I watched the playoff. Obviously I watched last year the playoffs, and he was awesome the whole playoffs. So I thought I was going to have a sneaky play in game 1. Just didn't play. And then he just crushes game 2 and I didn't play him. I mean, he has to be a good play. He just has to be. I agree if he gets hot, he'll play more. But he has to be a good play, I think.
Think about it. If you're on Hoop's side or Tony's side where they kind of more of the cheaper plays, I mean, you could play Norman Powell, TLC, Temple, Chioza, or Tyler Johnson. You could play those 4 guys. Too. And then you could stack the 2. You could do double center. You could do Luka in a stud center. There's a lot of options with a lineup like that. So, I mean, don't rule out something like that. If you're making multiple entries, I would definitely throw in some type of lineup where you just kind of take a few of these cheap guys from this game, and fade the other expensive guys, and just and hope that, if the cheap guys get there, whether it's a blowout or not, they're going to have runs. So, I like it. I think that's a pretty solid idea too. I might have to, throw in one more lineup doing that, because most of my lineups have Kyle Lowry and Van Fleet, or at least one of them or both. So I might have to make one more and throw one of those in. But I think we covered that game, guys. Anything else?
We need to clarify something with the chat too. This Ray in chat is saying that us 3 don't use the workbench. That is not true, Ray. The one thing I can guarantee with us 3 is we all definitely pick winners, and we also definitely use the bench.
I mean, that's as bad of a take as it gets, and that's what I was talking about. When in the opening, they hate to see it. They hate to see the success in DFS. But I'll tell you one thing, buddy. You hate to see the success in the workbench even more, because that thing is getting some work done.
Oh yeah,
my man Ray, it's the wrong show to be calling out no workbench. Let me just tell you right now, you're watching the wrong show, my friend.
At least watch a Mangone show or something.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's other show combinations. Don't get me wrong, where you can come on here and throw that slander out there. I mean, I am not going to defend everyone on the team, but I'll tell you right now, this threesome right here is putting that baby to use. So coming at the wrong crew.
Yeah, that's a bad take. That's just poor Ray. Poor Ray. That's a bad take. I'm sorry.
I got evidence from Big T. He sometimes doesn't even use the workbench. He goes on missions.
Easy now. We don't need to be telling stories.
Oh boy. All right, let's move on. We don't need any of those stories right now. So let's move on to Denver Nuggets versus the Utah Jazz. Now Utah gets back one of their starters, Mike Conley. He is going to play. Now, this is a big deal, and it's an interesting question that I want to bring up first. Does Mike Conley hurt the chemistry that this team kind of has right now after that big win? Or does he help more? Because I'm kind of in the camp where, man, the Jazz look really good, and they look really good with the ball in Donovan Mitchell and Joe Ingles' hands. I think I would rather keep it that way as opposed to let Conley have the ball in his hands more. Conley can still be out there because he can make jump shots. Like, he can still be out there and with the guys and play big minutes. But man, I hope they don't put the ball in his hands. I hope they keep it in Ingle and Mitchell's hands. I think it kind of might hurt their chemistry a little. But Tony, I'll bring it to you first because I think you're with me on this side. But give us your take on that and what you like.
I've been very, very strong about this take. It's one of my – I feel very confident on this take. For the last 2 years even, Conley makes Utah worse. I'm a firm believer in it. And I liked Utah coming into the series when I didn't think Conley was going to play. Now that he's back, I'm back on the Denver train. I think Denver beats them now. Their best players, in my opinion, with the ball in their hands are Donovan Mitchell and Joe Ingles. And when Conley's there, he dribbles the ball into the ground and he's not any good. So their whole offense loses flow. And yeah, if they just put him in the corner and let him be a shooter and a defender, I'd be fine with it. But the problem is they won't. Like, they love to give him the ball too much. I think he makes them way worse. And for that, I really don't like Utah today at all as plays.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it hurts Joe Ingles the most, but Donovan Mitchell as well, because you're paying a premium for Donovan Mitchell right now. And I just think
you guys talked about the price. I watched the show. I ended up going all in on him at 90, whatever he was, but he was 6% owned. I still stand by that it was a good play. You guys kind of disagree, but either way, at 6%, we can argue back and forth. One thing we're definitely all going to agree on: 9,400 today. There's no way you can play that. Like, I don't care if he's 3% owned. Like, you can't do it.
Yeah, no way. And again, if I'm Donovan Mitchell, you got to be telling the coach, like, no, the ball stays in my hands. Like, that's got to be a thing he's got to do. I don't know if they're going to do it though. Like Tony said, Hoop, I'll bring it to you. What are you thinking with the Mike Conley? Does it hurt? Does it help? And then what do you like from this Jazz team, if anything?
Well, yeah, the first thing on the DFS side, I mean, there's no possible way it helps. You know, I mean, these guys are all priced up for their big roles in the first two games. Conley's going to come in. He's going to have a role. And it's going to be the primary ball handler. And that's like worst case scenario for the team. So DFS, it brings a lot of guys out of play. The one guy I still do have interest in because of his price tag is Royce O'Neal. He's only 4.1K on DK. He's still going to get minutes.
And he doesn't get affected, not to interrupt you, but that's what, like you can talk about it even. He doesn't get affected by the guard minutes.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking Donovan Mitchell, obviously big downgrade. Jordan Clarkson out of play now, unfortunately. You know, we rode him the first two games in the series and paid off both times. Big game last time out of play now. Ingles out of play. So it makes it easy for from a DFS perspective. The only guy I would touch would be Royce O'Neal. From just winning games perspective, I agree, man. Like, okay, you're sitting basically in the optimal situation. Game one, you go to overtime with the Nuggets, you lose. Game two, you absolutely smoke the Nuggets. And now game three, you're going to switch things up and bring Conley back in the conversation. I mean, it sucks. I mean, they probably have to do it. They probably don't have a choice, but makes it easy for DFS. We'll be off basically all those guys now.
Yeah, I would agree. Outside of Royce O'Neal, I think it's just to stay away from the Jazz side. I love me some Joe Ingles. Like I don't know if you're going to find a bigger Joe Ingles fan, I think, than me. I play him all the time when I can get him cheap and when I have like one of these guys out,
Conley,
which upgrades him.
Literally directly related to Conley.
Yeah. Yep. So if you told me Conley, Mitchell, Jordan Clarkson, if you told me any of those guys were out, I would be on Joe Ingles 100%. But I can't be on him at the price that he is with all those guys healthy. So I think it's just to stay away from me outside of the one punt and Royce. Now let's bring it to the Denver side. We don't really love the Utah side, but I mean, Jokic and Murray, they still have to be in like two of the better like tandem plays today, like even in a mini stack. Like even if you didn't like the Utah side, I mean, I still think they're very strong plays, even with Murray disappointing last time out. I think he's fine. Tony, I'll bring it back to you. You got the Nuggets in your picture. I mean, I'm assuming you're picking them to win today, but what do you like for DFS?
Yeah, I'm back. I'm back on the Nuggets. I was off them the first two games. I like them today. They're getting close to a Gary Harris return. Have they rolled him out yet today? I don't think he's going to play today, but he's getting close to a return. We need to monitor that a little bit. But I mean, Jokic is definitely my favorite play today. He had a little bit of a rough finish. Obviously, when they got blown out, he got owned. I mean, Gobert owned him, questioned his manhood, just destroyed him last game. Jokic will come back today. He will crush. He's easily my favorite play on the slate. Jamal Murray's a little tougher for me just because he's so shooting related and he's priced up decent. I mean, he's not cheap, which I still like him. I don't want it to sound like I don't like him, but his price is a little tough for me. But the guy for me, MPJ, we've got off him the first two games. The one guy last game that got a little flow going that people might not have noticed was MPJ. He looked really good shooting-wise. They have to take that because they need scoring. One of the reasons I didn't like Denver coming into this series, they don't have scoring anywhere. They got Jokic, they got Murray. They need MPJ to get it going scoring-wise. And his price, he's a fair price, $6,700. I don't think he's much more than – what is he on DK or on FanDuel, Hoop?
He's similar on FanDuel.
6'8".
So, yeah, he's a fair price on both sites. I'm all over Jokic. I'm all over MPJ. I'm okay with Murray and guys like Jeremy Grant, but I don't mind a comeback game for Torrey Craig. I know he sucks, but again, a value guy. He was terrible last game, awful. But he's another guy where you kind of get blown out. He knows how to dig deep and at least play hard. I could see it being a game where, like, right away, Torrey Craig has 12 fantasy points because he gets a couple rebounds, a steal, an assist, hits a three, and he's got 12 like 3 minutes in.
You're talking yourself into Torrey Craig again?
Were you talking about Torrey Craig?
Yeah, he's talking about Torrey Craig.
3 minutes in when he has 12 fantasy points, just send me a tweet, Hoop. That's all I ask.
All right. Well, I mean,
do I get a deal? If he's got 12 3 minutes in, can I get a Hoop tweet to me?
I'll say, man, if you
12,
get a picture of me on the
just double digits, let's say, to get it.
You're gonna get a picture of me
3 minutes in, not like after the quarter, just right away.
You'll get a picture of me in a solo workbench session if
solo. Ooh, I don't know if I want solo. I may want some other things involved.
He didn't even break double digits in the entire game last
I
game.
Get it.
You think he gets 12 in the first 3 minutes?
We were flowing. The show was just flowing so nicely. You know, we got to take the victory lap, the stroke fest early on, start giving out the winners, feeding off each other, and he just said Torrey Craig is going to have 12 fantasy points in the first 3 minutes of this game.
He better hope he doesn't have 3 fouls in the first 3 minutes. That's what he's got to worry about. Not worried about getting fantasy points. He needs to worry about, stopping Donovan Mitchell.
Send me the tweet, boys.
Man, that hurts, man. That just hurts everything that was going on.
All right.
Everything was just so nice.
So a verbal agreement that when it happens, I get a tweet from both of you.
So what do you think about the Denver, side? Because Tony kind of likes. He said Jokic is his favorite play on the slate. He thinks Murray's, a little priced up, okay, but he likes MPJ. He likes going back to MPJ after a couple of games and not going to him. What do you think?
Yeah, so I mean, with Jokic, the conversation in the first two slates that included these games was Jokic versus Embiid, similarly priced. Today it's a little bit different. Jokic is cheaper than Embiid, I think, for was it the first time in this series? I don't know. Either way, there's a pretty decent gap between
He was
the
8,700 the first slate, I think.
The first slate, they were both like 87, 86, something like that. Well, there's on FanDuel, it's like a $700 difference now. On DK, it's like a $500 difference. If I need the 500 or 600, I'm fine going down to Jokic over Embiid. Similar plays in my eyes, so good with that. Jamal Murray, I think, is just an elite tournament play. Like I don't think it's a guy we're going to play in cash games. He has, the production's way up, way down. It kind of depends on what happens with MPJ. MPJ got hot last game. Jamal Murray really didn't have a big scoring role. So I think a really good tournament play. We saw in the first game, his upside is through the roof. Definitely not going to be on Torrey Craig. It's the last time we're gonna talk about Torrey Craig here. We can move on past that. He's got that look on his face. So I don't want to keep digging. But Murray in tournaments, Jokic in all formats. But outside of that, and MPJ, I think you can take a look at MPJ, be more of a tournament play. I mean, no one's going to really be on him. He's kind of in an uncomfortable price range when we know in the back of our head that Malone can just kind of pull the rug out underneath him. So, yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, I love me some MPJ like Tony. I'm a big fan, but I'm not going to pay the price tag when I have to worry about Malone literally just taking him out because he, makes a few silly defensive errors and doesn't let him learn from it. Like, I just don't trust it.
Yeah, and
I agree that he needs I agree they need him to score, but take it like this. If he's not making his shots in the beginning, then I worry even more because then he could definitely easily get the hook just for missing a bunch of shots. Like, they need him to score 100%, but if he's missing shots early, then it worries me. I just don't want to pay it. If he was a little cheaper, I'd probably look at him, but
you don't like
I get why Tony likes it.
6,700 for a 50 piece. That doesn't not something.
Well, here's the thing: is I just don't think Jamal Murray's going to be way more aggressive in this game. I think he's going to come out. They're going to do the 2-man game with Jokic, and I think he's going to have a bounce back game. And I think that hurts MPJ a little bit. You know what I mean? Murray took 13 shots last game where he took 20 the game before. MPJ was hot that last game. Like, if MPJ doesn't come out hot, it'll worry me. You know what I mean? Where Murray could do it in one quarter. He could literally drop 20 real points in one quarter. And you just go from he has 20 fantasy points to he's got 50 or 45. So if I got to pay almost the same price for both of them, I'll take Murray all day. That's just my take.
Yeah, but MPJ can get 15 boards. Murray can't get the peripherals.
But MPJ is not going to take 20 to 25 shots like Murray will take. He can easily take that amount.
Being on an island.
Yeah, that's fine. Jokic, to me, I agree with Hoop. Very similar to Embiid. We're going to get to that game right now. Let's move on to that game because Boston versus Philadelphia. I love the fact that I'm just right on this one topic. If I could get one thing right in all my basketball takes, it's that Philadelphia sucks and they've sucked this entire time. I'm not even talking about just the playoffs, the bubble, before the bubble. They're just not good. I told you guys Simmons wasn't good. I'm just taking the victory lap on that because he's not. Embiid.
You're taking the victory lap on an injured dude?
He's not good. He wasn't good when he was healthy. So don't even get me started right now.
He's not playing.
Well, that's true. But I'll tell you right now, it doesn't matter. The Celtics would still win.
Take a victory lap when the
Tony,
dude's injured.
Tony, I have a question. If Ben Simmons was in, would the Sixers beat the Celtics?
I mean, they'd have a lot better chance at beating the Celtics.
That's not my question. No, that's not my question.
I would still take the Celtics because I like the Celtics. Yes,
correct. Thank you. Okay, so they're not beating the Celtics.
I definitely don't think Ben Simmons is as bad as you think he is.
Oh, geez. Okay, whatever. But you think Giannis isn't that good.
This
is what's funny is you think that Giannis isn't good, but you don't think Ben Simmons is good, and Ben Simmons is a poor Giannis.
No, I mean, I agree
with that. Poor man's Giannis.
I mean, how sick is it going to be, though, when my Nuggets pull that trade-off that I told you guys about?
I mean, if that happens,
it might make me cry. I might cry actual tears.
That'd be the biggest steal of all steals for the Sixers if they do that. But, all right, let's talk about this game because Embiid looked awesome in the last game. He really did. I love that he was aggressive. He got to the free throw line early, went 12 or 13 from the free throw line. The problem is Boston just looks way better than the Sixers, and I worry the Sixers, again, can't keep this game somewhat close. The only way they do it, though, is if Embiid is aggressive the entire game, and even then, they could still, get smacked. So what are we doing with Embiid? Because I want to play him, but I do worry a little bit about them just getting run off the court. Hoop, I'll bring it to you first.
Yeah, I mean, it's a team that I have a lot of interest in overall just because of the situation they're in. And it's just more poor coaching. You're not slowing down the Sixers on offense, at all. Okay. You've proven you can't, or you're not, the Sixers have not been able to slow down the Celtics at all on offense. So you're bringing this Tybal guy to defend somebody and he can't do it. So why not just go to the offense? The situation with Alec Burks, beyond tilting to me. Like, why are you not playing this guy? He can go out there and get you buckets. Your defensive lineups aren't working. Horford doesn't fit with what you're trying to do. The team's a disaster, and I'm a donkey because I picked him to win in the first round for some freaking reason that I just
don't quit him now. You might as well stand by it until they go down.
I'm gonna be playing. Well, I'll tell you what. I'm playing these guys today. I'm on Embiid. Josh Richardson is, I think, one of the better values on the slate. He's 5K on FanDuel, 4.8K on DK. And if Alex Burks is not going to have much of a role, like that directly benefits Josh Richardson. His minutes will be very secure, and he'll have a bigger uptick in production. Tobias Harris, I think, is in play again. These guys, I mean, they just don't have options on offense. So I have to consider all of them. And then on the Boston side, I really like Kemba again. I really like going back to him. They didn't need him last game as a blowout, like you guys said, but he only played 25 minutes, and he was scoring basically whenever he wanted. Still finished the game with like 32, 33 fantasy points. I think Jaylen Brown's a strong play. Tatum's a strong play. I'm fine going back to your boy Marcus Smart again, especially on FanDuel. A good FanDuel play just because he finds a way to get those steals and blocks, and it goes a long way on FanDuel. So I really like this game from a DFS perspective. I'm going to be overweight on a lot of these guys. You just got to hope that Boston somehow keeps it close, or the Sixers keep it close because they weren't able to do that last game.
Yeah, this is definitely my second favorite game on the slate. I think it's the first game for me, and then this Boston-Philadelphia game where I'm with you. I've got a ton of interest in these guys. I will just say, Kemba Walker, I mean, if you watch that game, again, just poor coaching and poor execution of defense. He's coming off high pick and rolls, and Embiid's just sunk in the paint, and he's just coming off ready to shoot. Like, it's just, you can't give Kemba Walker those easy shots coming off pick and rolls. You can't do it. I'm assuming the Sixers will try and fix that. I'm assuming they will highlight that. And then you'll see Kemba Walker kind of gets the hole a little bit more, maybe get more assists and dish. But I couldn't believe it. I was just watching Kemba come off free and clear to shoot wide open jump shots. It was just, it was insane to me, but I love him today. I'm with you. Jaylen Brown, that dude, if this game doesn't blow out, like if that game last time didn't blow out, he would have had 30 points easily. Like he was just scoring with ease, taking the ball to the hoop, shooting, just kind of doing a little everything. I really like Jaylen Brown. If price didn't matter, I would probably prefer Jaylen Brown over Kemba, but Kemba's obviously cheaper. So, take that into account, but I do really like him a ton. Jason Tatum, can't argue with. And I'll go back to Smart again. I'm fine. There are going to be games where Marcus Smart hits 5 threes. And then there'll be games where he goes 0 for 8 from the 3-point line. And those games where he goes 0 for 8, it's not going to be good for you. But the games where he hits those 5 threes and has, like Hoop said, a block, 3 steals, some rebounds, like those are the games where you're going to get the big Marcus Smart day. And I'm just not going to miss it. Like it's going to happen one of these games. So I'm going to do it at his cheap price. But Tony, let's bring it to you. What are you thinking with this Sixers team and then Boston side as well? What do you like?
So I definitely struggle more with this game than you guys. I feel like Philly might quit. I've seen these series for a while where teams just quit. Embiid's a quitter too. He's always been a quitter. When he gets tough, he just quits or like fakes an injury or whatever he does. He's not tough mentally. If the game stays close, I 100% agree with you guys. Like all these guys are good plays, 100%. But you got to take. I'm a tournament player. I talk about it all the time. Game theory. I'm going to bank on a blowout if I think it's going to be a blowout. And if it is, like I don't see Tatum getting there. Kemba, I think, is my favorite play just because he's 66. And Jaylen Brown, I agree. Like him and Tatum are just incredible together. Obviously, Tatum's better, but they're both they play off each other so good on both sides of the ball. Kemba's cheap too. But the guy I think I could play, honestly, is Canner. 3,700. He got more run last game to go against Embiid. He's always played Embiid good on offense too in the past. And that price point, I keep circling to that price point, but under 4K, if you can get a few of those guys in that you can get 20 from, it lets you get up to some of the stars in the late game and Jokic and guys that you need. So I want to find a couple lower owned cheap guys like Canner. Again, it's a tournament play. I don't think a lot of people will like it. But, man, if he gets blowout run on top of it, you could fall into the nuts with Canner. You could fall into like a 40-piece even if it blows out. So I like it. I mean, I don't think he'll be owned, maybe 10% tops, just because he did have a decent game last game to kind of get on people's radar. But, yeah, I think it's going to blow out, and Canner and Kemba would be my two favorites.
Interesting, too, last game, Daniel Theis, like, the Celtics like him. They think he's a solid defender, but, he just struggles guarding Embiid for whatever reason. I mean, Embiid's an amazing player, but he just struggles. And they actually preferred, I think, to kind of go with the offensive guy in Canner for more of this game than Theis, who's more of a defensive guy, kind of hustles, gets rebounds and stuff. So
Canner
that is interesting if they do that again.
Either.
Who?
Like, Canner doesn't completely get abused on. He kind of matches up decent on D with him even. I'm not saying he's going to stop Embiid, of course.
No,
not.
but you're only playing Canner for his offensive game, right?
But, I mean, he can stay on the floor, though, because he can match up good enough with Embiid to body him up at least.
So the reason, in my opinion, they would do this is with Theis, Embiid doesn't really have to work on defense that much. Like, he just kind of is lazy. He doesn't have to worry about him. With Canner, the Celtics can give Canner the ball, and he can try and go to work on Embiid, and Embiid's got to at least, somewhat worry about Canner on the offensive end. So it is interesting that Stevens would do it. It's a very smart move if he continues to run out Canner, just to make Embiid work on the offensive end or on the defensive end for him. So it is an interesting play. I do kind of like it. Embiid for you, Tony? Any interest, or are you just kind of staying away because of blowout risk?
And the way the slates have gone, like, I can't fade all of the stars in the late game. So, I mean, you just can't fit them. I'm playing Jokic because he's my favorite. So it just doesn't work. I think it blows out. I think Embiid quits. I like him, obviously, if the game stays close. But, I mean, you can't play. I mean, we'll talk about the next game next, but I don't think you can play Jokic and Embiid together. And I'm just picking Jokic.
All right, that's fair. Hoop, anything else from this game?
No, I mean, in terms of my overall ownership, I'll probably be higher on this game than any other game, and it's somewhat scary. I mean, for the reasons that you guys both or Tony touched on with the blowout and potential guys just kind of giving up in the series. But I'm going to bank on the Sixers keeping this game close, and I like the core pieces on both sides.
I will say, too, before we move on, if you think that this game is a blowout, I think 2 Celtics is a max. Play 2 Celtics. I wouldn't play more than 2 if you think this game is actually going to be a blowout, personally. But if you think this game is going to be somewhat close, I mean, you need to stack the Sixers side, too. Like, you can't just play Boston guys in 1-6. Like, I think I would play, like, someone like Jay Rich and Embiid. Or if you think that Alec Burks, if you're making a ton of lineups and you want to go back to Alec Burks because they might give him more run this game. Because for whatever reason, they decided last game it was a good idea to play him, 4 or 6 minutes in the first half? He didn't play the entire first quarter. He didn't play the entire first quarter and then plays 6 minutes, and then he plays 11 in the second half. So I don't know what happened there. He played more in the second half than he did in the first half. But still, I mean, the guy was playing down the stretch of game 1. And game 1 was somewhat like close. So I just don't understand that at all. If I was making 150, I would definitely play a little Alec Burks just in case they get smart, and, play him more. Because he would be in a stack, too. I wouldn't play him alone. I'd play like him, Embiid, Jay Rich. I'd play them together and kind of bring it back with some Boston guys. But that's just my take on that game. Let's move on. We got the Clippers versus my Mavericks. I'm just going to say my Mavericks, even though I like both these teams. I think they're the 2 best in the league. This is a good game. This is a great series. I can't wait to watch this game after Dallas came out and just shoved it right in Tony's face. Just like gave Tony the business. Tony's, had the bet on the Clippers. But I think you hedged it anyways, right, Tony, with the Mavs?
Yeah, I mean, it ended up being a good night. I mean, if
would
they
you win over
won,
10 units or something like that night? Like
I mean,
overall?
it would have been like 6 units if the Clippers won just outright too. They didn't even have to cover a spread. They just had to win outright because it was the back end and then heads to Dallas on the money line. So yeah, it was a good night as far as that.
Yeah. So I mean, we get a really good 1-1 series. These two teams are very good. And I mean, it's a solid fantasy game, like from a fantasy standpoint, too. We've got really solid plays. Obviously, Dallas with the two studs at the top, Luka and Porzingis. They're going to come in. They're very strong plays again today. And then you got the Clippers with, I think there's a bunch of different ways to go with the Clippers. No Pat Bev. Well, he's doubtful. So he's not ruled out yet, but he's doubtful to play. Reggie Jackson's cheap. He played 25-ish minutes last game. Marcus Morris has been playing really well the last 2 games of the playoffs. He's $5K, I think, so he's still kind of cheap. And then you got Lou Will and Trez, who, in my opinion, are way too cheap. And Montrez saw a little uptick last game. He got the 21 minutes, I think. I think this game he sees 25. And if he sees 25 minutes at 4,100, I'm going to take the risk in some tournaments and be playing some Harold. No way. I mean, I play Harold when he's like 6K getting 25 minutes. You know what I mean? So I'm definitely going to play him at 4,100. But, Tony, I'll bring it to you first. You talked about this game. You talked about the studs. Let's hear it. What do you like from this game?
Yeah, I think Trez, like you said, it sounds weird like how I'm going to build my teams, but I'm probably going to put Trez or Cantor in my second or my utility because you can obviously – I'm going to have Jokic in the center spot. So, and they're both center. I wish Trez was a forward. It would open up a lot of things. But I'm going to have Cantor or Harrell on basically every team I make in the utility spot. So it's going to be kind of a different construct. But I agree. I mean, he played 22 minutes, looked good. They want to get his run back just as the playoffs go along. So they're going to have to keep boosting him up a little bit. Even at 25 minutes, I mean, he's 4,100. That is just really, really cheap. So I like that. And Lou, I mean, those are my 2 guys always with the Clippers. I think you should play one of Kawhi or Paul George. I don't like them together necessarily. And then one of 2 probably between Lou and Trez, where I think we get some good Clipper production tonight just because Dallas obviously looked really good last time. The Clippers, you would think, bring their best game tonight and try to make a statement a little bit. Like if Dallas wins tonight, the Clippers have legitimate issues. We don't have home court anymore. So if you beat a team 2 straight on a neutral floor and they're supposed to be the favorite, I think we see a Clippers statement tonight for sure. So I like all those guys. And I think I'll be fading Luka just because I think Kawhi and Paul George come to play tonight. And I'm trusting them to really rise up and make a statement.
One other thing before we get to it. So I remember watching this game and saying, why is Luka not being guarded by Kawhi and PG on every single play?
We were talking about that on the show when we were on the other night. Hoop said it.
I don't even understand. Yeah, Hoop said it too. I don't understand it. It makes no sense. You would have to think they would change the strategy up, right? Like,
yeah, Kawhi's I have a feeling Kawhi and Paul George are like, no, we're guarding them all night tonight.
They have no Pat Bev, and Pat Bev's a big loss defensively. He's one of those guys that he kind of starts off that he's always one of those fiery guys who gets the team going. He does a little of the little things, he'll hit threes sometimes, but like rebounds, steals, blocks. He gets in people's face. He picks up, full court all the time, and he just harasses defensively these studs, and he just makes it really annoying. And that's a big loss, I think. So they need to switch it up and put Kawhi and PG. You can switch it off where they're not playing the whole game, one of them on him, but they should be guarding him together. They should be guarding him for the entire game that he's out there. Hoop, I'll bring it to you first.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be on Luka today, especially on Draftkings. We have so much value now that we start kind of cut out. Now that we started talking about, we have a ton of value. So I'm going to be on Luka. I really like this game overall. If there's the chance that Reggie Jackson's back on Luka, I mean, he's going to go bonkers again. I agree with you guys. I do think they switch it up, but the price and the volume for Luka just it's too good. So I'll be on him. really like this Clippers team tonight. I agree. Like Harrell, 4.1K, phenomenal play. The minutes are just going to keep inching up. It's probably the cheapest price tag on Harrell throughout the entire playoffs here at 4.1K on DK. His production is going to keep going up. His price is going to keep going up. Now is a great time to get on him. I think Lou Williams, still digging and still doing some research here, but I think he's probably my favorite play on this slate. With Patrick Beverley likely out, I mean, he played 32 minutes. He was the guy on offense. Paul George hasn't looked great in this series. Like his shot is not falling, and maybe he does get it going. It's definitely possible. But Lou Williams, I think, is the guy. The price is just way too cheap. He's going to play mid 30s minutes. Probably 32 to 35 minutes. 5.6K on both sites. Just he was handling the ball like a ton that game. Like the offense was kind of going through him. So I really like him. Marcus Morris, a guy I haven't really been on the first two games, and it's been a mistake, but he's playing a ton. And 35 minutes last game, and I looked to see if Harrell starts playing a little bit more. Do you think that affects Morris? But it looks like it's just Green and Morris are splitting 48 minutes. And Morris got 35 of those last game, and Green, JaMychal Green got 13. So if it's just those two splitting 48, like I'm good with Morris. Fair price tag. I think he's 5K on both sites. Reggie Jackson, not as high on him. I just think there's a lot of routes where he just barely plays. Like if he stinks, like they'll just go to Lou Williams. So. He's fine at 3.5K. You don't need much from him, but I think I prefer the other guys that I talked about on the Clippers.
Yeah, and I will say before I finish up this game, guys, we got 521 live viewers and only 140 likes. If we want that swag, we got to get halfway. We got to get 250. 250 is the goal number. We got a few more minutes left on this show, so you got to hit that thumbs up button if you want some swag. So hit that thumbs up, because this show's free. And if you like this show and you want it to stay free, hit it. Let's go. Hit that like button. But one thing I'll say about the Clippers with PG specifically is I think today I'll take the discount if I had to choose between him or Kawhi. I think I'm going to take the discount with PG. He was someone who, in the beginning of the bubble stages, I thought he looked as good as anybody in the bubble. He was playing very well at the beginning. He's had a couple down games, but I expected to turn around. Paul George, he's an extremely good basketball player. So I expect him to have a bounce back game today. So I think if I had to choose between those two, I think I'm going to take the savings with PG and look for that bounce back game. But Tony, anything else from this game that we're missing?
I mean, Paul George on FanDuel at 7,900 does stick off the page. I mean, we don't usually get him under. I mean, I know he hasn't been much more, but just seeing him below 8K does look kind of funny in that spot. I mean, he's got to bounce back. Yeah, I mean, I think we covered it pretty good.
Yeah, I will say. So if you guys had to pay up for one person today, any of the 9K and above, who are you going for? I'll start with you.
I think Jokic goes absolutely off. Triple-double, 70 fantasy points. I think he goes off.
All right.
It's Luka for me. Like his price is now close enough to Jokic and Embiid where I'll just go up to Luka.
I think for me it's between I think it's Embiid for me. I'm going to say this is the one game where Philly can somehow keep it close even though I don't think they win. I think this is a game where at least, I don't think Embiid gives up today, Tony. I know you said, he's one of those guys who can give up. I think the game stays close. They end up losing today, and then he gives up in game 4 or whatever, or in the next game. Is it 5-game series? I forget. What is the first round? Is it 5?
I think it's 7.
It's 7. So, yeah, so he's going to give up in game 4, and then that'll be the give-up game. This game, he's going to go ham, I think, again. So I'll go Embiid. Let's see here. We're at 178. I don't know if we're going to get it done, boys. It's not looking likely. We need 250. That's a lot of people watching right now that aren't hitting that thumbs up button.
Yep. I mean, and they got to get it done. I mean, we're getting it done, giving the winners out. They got to get it done, giving the like button to get this swag. I mean, we got the shirt on here. The shirt feels good, nice and comfortable. We all got it on. The shirt, winners win. I mean, that's what our next shirt's going to say.
That's the next shirt.
Win.
Yeah, that's definitely the next shirt. Yeah. That is 100% the next shirt. Winners win. So let's finish out this show. Favorite game to target. Hoop, I'll start with you. Favorite game to target. Give it to me. If you could only pick one game.
Celtics, Sixers. I just like a lot of guys in that game, and I'll be overweight on a lot of them. So Celtics, Sixers for me.
Tony?
I mean, for me, it's just the Denver side. I'm back on Denver. I think Jokic and Porter and my main man, Torrey Craig, are going to get the job done for me today.
So are you going to play Denver without any Utah coming back?
I'm not going to play any Utah. I mean, if I was going to play Utah, let me just look real quick. If I was playing Utah, it'd be Royce O'Neal, but I honestly don't. There's enough value on the slate that I don't need Royce O'Neal. And I think Denver could lay it to him a little bit today. So I'm not going to play. I don't like Utah with Conley, so I'm going to stick to it.
Yeah, for me, it's definitely between the Toronto-Brooklyn game and the Boston-Philly game. I think I'm going to lean the Toronto-Brooklyn game. I hope that people stay away from some of these guys. I know, like, the cheaper guys are going to be popular, but I hope people stay away from some of these more expensive plays in hopes that they're thinking blowout, kind of like what happened with the Milwaukee Bucks and the Orlando Magic the first game, where a lot of people maybe stayed away from some of the plays just because they thought it would be a blowout and it didn't happen. I'm hoping the same kind of thing happens here where I can get a little lower ownership on some of these guys. So that's what I got. We got to 209, so it's not going to cut it today, guys. Anything else before we get out of here, Hoop?
No, just looking forward to another exciting day of basketball. Playoffs have been great, and that game tonight, man, it's going to be a phenomenal game. Series 1-1, Clippers, Dallas. I mean, I'm really looking forward to that game. That's going to be a fun one, and man, you were on Dallas. Like you said, you liked them and think they're up there, and they're proving it, man. Like they're and the thing to consider in that last game, like Luka barely played in the third quarter, and they still were able to get it done. So that game tonight's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah, definitely from like a viewer. Just forget about fantasy for a second. Yeah. That game is by far the most exciting game. Like I'm so excited to watch the entire series, but that game today is 100% the game I will be most excited about. Tony, I know you're going to be excited about your Nuggets because you just back on the Nuggets train. I'm excited
about the night game for sure for just basketball. Yeah, I mean, even fantasy-wise, the night game is definitely the key game, I think, as far as just overall plays, Luka, the studs, I mean, the values, Lou Williams. The night game, of course. I can't wait for that game. It's a huge game, too, I mean, for both sides. I actually hope Dallas somehow wins just because then it really see what the Clippers are made of.
Yeah, that would definitely be interesting. I don't know. Well, we'll see. Tonight is going to be interesting either way because if the Clippers win, it kind of brings everyone back to the Clippers, right? And if the Mavs win, then everyone's jumping off the Clippers to the Mavericks, right? So it'll be interesting either way, but I think that's going to do it for us.
The chat keeps talking about it. They keep talking about the Brooklyn Nets. Like we talked about this. Tyler Johnson starting, so everyone's talking, but we kind of already said that. Like Tyler Johnson and Chiozza, for me, really pick up those minutes that they're losing. So we already said we like them. I mean, even Hoops circled back and kind of said he liked Tyler Johnson. Yeah. So yeah, we're good with that, I think, right, guys? Tyler Johnson.
Yeah, I mean, it makes me like Jared Allen even more that they're starting a point guard as opposed to like starting Kurix or whatever his name is at the power forward spot. Like I like Brooklyn's lineup more when they play with the smaller lineup and they can play super fast. Like that's what I want out of a Brooklyn lineup. So yeah, I mean, Tyler Johnson, if you want to go there, like he's a fine play. Tony talked about the pivot of Chiozza at his cheap price. I have no problem with that. Get some cheap guys from this game. Like that's going to be a good way to start your build because either way, some of these guys are blowout proof, right, Tony?
I mean, I think the Brooklyn guys are for sure. Outside of like LeVert and Allen.
No, but like Norman Powell, you don't think like he can play some?
Blowout. I think a lot of these guys are blowout proof. Honestly, like Toronto still plays minutes. They're not going to play like 25 minutes or something ever.
Yeah, no. Again, like I said, game one, they still played huge minutes like these guys, and it was a blowout. Like
even worst case scenario, they're playing low 30s, like totally worst case scenario.
Agree.
Which at least two of them can get there. At least two of those spend ups can get there. So I have no problem.
Get there if they're blowing them out. Like they definitely will. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, we're at 2:20. All right, guys. So that's going to do it for us. Stay tuned. We got the MLB show at 5:00 again today. But for me, JSU, Hoop, Big T, we'll see you tomorrow.